G'day, I'm Brett. I'm in the final packing stages for preparation of a trip around Australia. This will be my second trip, the first in 2015, now 2018. So I'm going to show you through some of the gear I carry so you can get an idea of what you might want to take on your first trip as well. Now I carry everything in Wolfpack storage boxes. These are fairly strong and it saves a lot of money on an expensive drawer system in the back, as well as all the extra weight that a drawer system takes up. Because my car is a daily driver, I can just take these out and my car's back to normal for everyday use. So let's start with my recovery gear box. I'm fairly set up. As a solo traveler, I need to have a fair bit of gear so I can get myself out of all kinds of different situations, which I can't even think of at this point in time, because I could be in deserts one week and then a few weeks later in a rainforest or muddy old track or corrugated track, because I'll be traveling long term, so I have no idea where I'll be, a few weeks from now. So we've got two snatch blocks, redirecting the line pull and doubling the load of the winch. That just gives me some options if I need to from really badly bogged. We've got a high lift jack adapter for the wheels, so I can hook this onto the wheel and lift up that way rather than lifting from the front or rear of the vehicle. Just an option. A couple of winch blankets, just for protection. I then got two winch extension straps, two tree trunk protectors and one equalizer strap. I got the snatch strap, and then also a winch extension strap to get me out of trouble for when the tree is a little bit far away. And then a few bow shackles, about 4, plus a 5th one on the rear tow hitch. And I've got a 12,000 pound winch on the front of my car. So that should be plenty enough for typical situations I find myself in. In my 2015 trip, I had 10 months of traveling, covered around 30,000 Ks and never ended up getting bogged or using any of the recovery equipment. But it's there for when the day I need it. So let's look at the spare parts box. Now this is fairly extensive. Again, I could be in fairly remote areas and I need to be self-sufficient. So I've got my oil pump for when I'm topping up my transfer case oils or diff oils, just so I can actually get the liquid in. Otherwise, using the bottle is near impossible to reach up into the filler plug. Other things here, I've got plenty of extra hoses for the different parts in my car. Got some welding rods, that way I can set up some 24 or 36 volt welding just to do some minor repair jobs. I also got a welding glass in here so I can protect my eyes and just make up a face shield using bits of cloth or whatever I have available to me. I've got a small grease gun just for doing minor servicing while traveling, just to save myself some money so I'm not paying mechanics to do the basic work for me. I've got a one-man brake bleeder kit. That's very important to have. And of course, I've got a spare oil filter and the oil filter removal tool. If you've ever tried removing an oil filter without the correct tool, particularly for my car, I've found it's almost impossible. It used to take me an hour to get the thing off, but with this it's a 10-second job. And of course also a spare fuel filter, and also have another air filter. So that covers all the filters for the car, and then a secondary filter for the second fuel tank. That's just for in case of contamination or too much or sand and grit in the fuel. I found one of these little blow torches that fit onto the little butane gas cooker stoves that I carry. This can be useful just for heating up any stubborn nuts and bolts that have seized up, and whatever else I might come across in the future. I have used something like this before and it's been very helpful getting the nut off. Just a small selection of a few self-tapping screws. My bag of random nuts and bolts. I've got a lot more smaller ones on this trip compared to the last time where I had a lot of big ones which weren't very useful. So quite a few of these are high tensile just to prepare for any eventuality. As well as 2 little steel plates. I can use those for fixing up, welding onto, you know, perhaps a chassis mount or something might break, so I'll use these to weld on and help bridge over the broken area. Then just a spare universal joint. And a pair of wheel bearings, just in case. I've got my circlip pliers just for getting the circlips off for the universal joints. Various lengths of fuel hose, just in case I ever snag a bit of fuel hose or a rat comes in and has a gnaw on my gear. I've also got, you see here, the bits of metal that fit in, so I can bridge over different lengths and put them together again. I've got a full kit of shock mount bushes, so I can replace them on the track if they fail. Hub nut spanner. I've got a spare engine sump plug as well as one for the diff. 5 wheel nuts as well, just in case one of them comes off. I've got the whole set there, I can put it back on. Then all the seals and gaskets for the wheel bearings, just in case again I need to change something on the road. I've got a full set to do one whole hub. A selection of what are they called? Clamps, hose clamps. So just in case any of my hose clamps fail and break off or whatever, or the mechanism dies, I can fit a new one, keep on heading. Then a fuel filter, thermostat, parts of my fuel sedimenter, and a whole entire clutch and master and slave cylinder, just so if they fail I can still replace them on the track and still have access to all my gears. That covers most of the parts, as well as a water pump. Now over here, for some pretty remote places, I carry 2 spare tubes. Although I run tubeless tyres, I keep the tubes in case the tyre is damaged beyond repair. I can still fix up the insides and run a tube in it, so I can get myself out of trouble. Then all kinds of little goos and stuff. I've got the lock nut locking compound, Dynasteel paste, metal tank repair putty, Aridite glue, aluminium seal if I get a puncture on the radiator. This is meant to be able to fix the leak. 2 different types of gasket sealer. One is a silicone that goes hard, the other stays soft. And then a fairly extensive tyre repair kit with all our plugs, inner liner sealer, glue, various patches for sidewall repair. That's fairly extensive. I also carry an R&R bead breaker, so I can change the tyres off the rim. And also mushroom plugs and other little goodies for the tyres. And that's basically the spares I'm carrying for my car. And just showing you, that's the spare water pump. And I also packed in various greases as well, such as wheel bearing grease, so I can do repairs on the side of the track. Got here a fire starter kit, just some metho, fire lighter, spare paper, matches, flint steel. There's a spare air filter as well, just in case I go through a deep water crossing and the filter housing gets flooded. I might be able to put this one in and keep on going until the other one dries out. Got a nice axe just for clearing tracks. I do have a little hand saw as well, which is much more preferable. I tried using this last time to clear some reasonable sized trees that had come down across the track blocking my path, but it was raining, it was on a bad angle, it was just getting too dangerous, so I put this away and used the hand saw. It took a bit longer, but I got through it. So the rest of my spare parts, or rest of my toolkit, I've got the various different oils, lubrications, cable ties, various sizes and strengths, a little box of electrical goodies. This has all my spare bulbs for my car. I've gone through every bulb in my car now and checked. I had some old bulbs in here, been carrying for the last 4 years, that I replaced with LEDs long ago. So I went through and double checked, so I'm not carrying any unnecessary gear. Got spare different relays, 2 different types to fit the various upgrades I've done on my car. 1 spare light switch, just in case one of my other switches fails and I need a backup. This one's rated to 20 amps. Then of course, various fuses. A fuse for my HF radio, thermal fuse for my fridge, and a fuse for my solar panel setup. So that covers me for the electrical side of things. Then I've also got my 12-volt bag, my multimeter. This one just has the various connections, heat shrink, crimping tool, a couple of rolls of spare cable just for doing reroutes and repairs, some electrical tape, and that basically covers me. Then 2 different tool bags, bag for my spanners and screwdrivers, and just a small cordless drill, which is really useful for doing odd repairs and drilling holes, and so that covers me pretty well, as long as the set of drill bits. And that's basically it. I also carry currently in the car a full 5-litre change of oil for the engine. That's just if I do need to change it somewhere where I don't have access to oil, or I get water in the engine, I can just do a full change wherever I am. So let's move on to some of the other boxes. So for collecting water, I've got my little jiggle hose, just to siphon out from my 20-litre jerry's into my small 5-litre day-use can. I've got a new filtration system for collecting water from the bush, creeks and rivers, any puddles. This covers me pretty much for all bacteria and cysts and like, but doesn't cover viruses. But I still have aqua tabs as well as backup, which I carry in various different compartments, and water bottles that just in case I do need to top up when I'm out in the bush. A fairly extensive first aid kit with all the gear. This one was just from St. John's remote area first aid kit, but I've also added in a bunch of other things, and also all the different medications and drugs you might need to carry. So Panadol, Strepsils for headaches, ear stuff, eye drops, anti-diarrhea, antihistamine, and that pretty much covers me for any real issue I might have when I'm traveling. Now this time I'm actually keeping these in the fridge. In the past I just put them in the box, but generally speaking these are meant to be below 35 degrees or something depending on the pack, so I thought for longer life and better condition of these drugs, I'll keep them nicely refrigerated in this sealed up container. And I've got my tucker box. This is right on the side of the car. Open the rear passenger door, and I've got access to pretty much all my cooking gear in one go. So you can see the basics are just the pots and various tins, cooking tin. It's pretty much all in there. This one's just the general, everything else which isn't really cooking can fit in this one. I have my little camp shower. And then just things for cooking, tools, mixing bowls. This trip I intend to cook a lot more of my own stuff, as I do have a little 12-volt oven now. so I can cook my own roast veggies, some dampers and breads and other pastries. So I'm gonna have a go at that this time. And also just your colander for making pasta. All my spare gas canisters nicely fit in here. Oven bags. Plenty of laundry detergent nicely kept in this box for when I'm getting to town and I can do some washing. And just spare food containers for leftovers, as well as a small camp oven. Just a little one just for putting on the fire to cook some food. I've also got 4 of these army style water bottles, which I found are very strong. I've had these ones since I was 14 and they're still going, so they're virtually indestructible compared to a lot of the cheap plastic stuff that comes out today that cracks the first time you drop it. This way I'm fairly well protected in the bush from out hiking and drop my bag or whatever. I'll stay safe and I keep my water. This is my bedding box and battery box as well. So I've got a couple of camp knives just for bushcraft and whatever else I need. Various selection of inner liners for the sleeping bags. So I've got a standard inner liner, that's just a cotton one. And then I've got these thermal ones which increase the comfort factor of the bags. And I found this one I had on my last trip and it was an absolute saviour. Without it, it would have been freezing because I didn't quite have sleeping bags that were rated well enough for down further south, which is the first time I'd travelled that far south in winter. So I had snow to contend with, and this one really helped. This one is even more powerful. I think that adds like an extra 8 degrees or something to the comfort factor. So these can be used as well just as a standalone sleeping bag. If you don't want to sleep in a full bag, you can just sleep in one of these when it starts getting warmer. So it gives you options. I also have a bed in the back, so I have bed sheets, 2 sets. That's for in the warmer months where I just want to sleep in a normal bed. I can do that with a blanket or throw one of the sleeping bags over the top for extra warmth. And then just a box of all my batteries. Here's a little tip: you want to keep all your batteries safe, use your old film canisters from 35mm film if you still got them. They'll fit in nicely, keeps them nice, dry, waterproof, and it stops the metal contacts rattling around. And there's a couple of double A's in there as well, rattling around and double contacting with each other and potentially causing a short or fire. And just a few other odds and ends. The small handheld radio, and this time I've invested heavily in rechargeable nickel metal hydride batteries. So we'll be using those particularly for my head torches and lighting. I'll be doing a review later on once I get some more experience with them to see how they go. So let's move on to the next box. So my final 2 Wolfpack boxes are for all my food, and then the rest is stored in my fridge for the cold stuff. So it all packs in. I found I can usually carry around 2 weeks supply of food just in these 2 boxes in the fridge. It's a lot of tin stuff, obviously, powdered stuff as well, just so it stays long life. I've got a nice container here for my cooking oil, so I'm not carrying glass or really poor plastic which tends to crack and rub through and get oil throughout my tucker box, which happened last time, so that was a nice mess to clean up. And yeah, that's basically the food boxes. But I found in summer it just gets too hot to carry really any fruit and veg in these boxes. They'll just go off within a couple of days. So the fridge will have to be the main means of carrying all fruit and veg when it gets warmer. But throughout all the cooler months, no problem. The vegetables, fruit lasts in a good week or more in these boxes. Let's move on to some of the camping gear and clothing. So this is the rest of the kit. I've got a nice big book box here. I like to read a fair bit, and as well as have all my reference books for off-roading, for snake identification, other wildlife books, bird books, and so that's a nice selection there, as well as my maps A couple of books for the HEMA maps. Got my little collapsible bucket, which is an absolute saviour for saving space. Got a couple of different tarps for hanging off my roof. One canvas, one synthetic. All my toiletries in my bags. The hiking bag. That's my tire changing kit. Sleeping mattress. This time I've actually got 2 different tents. I've got a one-man tent for hiking, so I can actually do some trips away from the car and do a little overnight hike. I didn't have that last time, so I had to miss out on a few little walking tracks, but I got this. Also invested in a new 3-man tent, which has a nice size annex on the front, so I can actually do cooking if it's raining when I'm living in a tent. Got all my various shoes, another sleeping bag, and then my big Marmot duffel bag for all my clothing, as well as a secondary bag I carry for all the dirty clothes so I can take it to the laundromat when I'm in town. And then just the raincoats as well. Both pants and top, just for any really bad weather. And then my camp chair over there, still going strong. More than 5 years old now, and it still works. So it's the King Goanna chair I did a review on quite a few years back now. Then the final few things are just over here. And finally, I've got my Max Tracks in the nice bag. And then my Engel fridge. I think it's 35 litres, and that, for one man, really works well. So I've got my nice little container. If you're going to carry lots of meat, I suggest getting rid of the bad packaging they come in, the styrofoam and cling wrap, and stick all your meat in boxes like this. And it helps stop the blood dripping out and getting through the fridge. I've also invested in a Red Arc pure sine wave inverter, so that way I can run my laptop now a lot longer with all the additional solar I've got, so I can do my video editing while I'm actually on the road. And that's basically the kit I carried. There's a few more things in the 2 storage boxes on the side. Just basic nuts and bolts and spare rod. Otherwise, that's basically what I carry. Plus a few extra hoses and that I store in the engine bay. So I'm only about 2 weeks or less now from departure. So I'm looking forward to it. I have no idea where I'm going to end up. I've got a general idea. I've actually planned less this trip than what I did in the previous trip. As I feel now I have some experience, there's really not much to worry about if you're traveling around most of Australia. If you've got a car fully equipped with all your fuel, food, water, and it's mechanically sound, then you can really just roam around and plan each day as it occurs and see a sign, go exploring. And that's pretty much my plan this time. It's only once you hit some of the indigenous areas in Northern Territory, Western Australia, you need to plan ahead by months so you can get the correct permits to enter indigenous land. At most national parks, you can pretty much book a few days before, unless it's like really peak season and it's booked out well in advance. So that's something I will have to check on. As the last trip I did actually go opposite to everyone else, so I had virtually every national park empty, which was really great because I got the best spot on all the parks. But I'll figure it out as I go on the road. At the end of the day, I have a car, I have my bed in the back, I can pull up anywhere and sleep and cook on the back door, so pretty self-sufficient. So I'm really just not that worried anymore. I feel a lot more confident and calmer when I'm traveling. So stay tuned for my future travel videos and to see some of the wonderful places around Australia I'll be sharing with you. So keep an eye on roamingtheoutback.com and subscribe to this video. Check me out on Facebook and Instagram. And if you'd like to help join me in the creation of some of these videos, please consider becoming a Patreon. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe if you enjoyed this video. Visit my website, roamingtheoutback.com, for Australian travel destinations
vehicle preparation ideas, and gear reviews. If you'd like to help support the creation of new videos, please consider becoming a Patreon. Click on the Patreon button on the screen now. Thanks.